As many of you out there are already aware, there's some pending anti-gun legislation in the Senate this week that's probably going to come to a vote on Tuesday. Now, to spur these votes and to rile up public support for these bills, the Democrats have been telling a lot of lies over the last couple of days. And I want to address one of those lies today. And that lie specifically is the 3-day wait loophole. Hillary Clinton has been going on and on about the 3-day wait loophole and how dangerous it is. And of course, she's passed that message down to her subordinates who have been repeating it en masse on mainstream media. I just love how politicians love to portray laws that were written to protect the people as loopholes against justice. It's like how they say the gun show loophole allows people to sell at gun shows without a background check or allows online retailers to sell without a background check. Well, that's not true at all. Any FFL dealer at a gun show has to conduct a background check before they sell a gun. Any online retailer has to send the gun to an FFL in your area and let them do a background check before you can take possession of a gun. So that's just a blatant lie that there's a gun show loophole. The only time you can ever sell a gun without a background check is when you're selling from private individual to private individual and you both reside inside the same state that allows such private transactions. That's the only time you can sell without a background check, and that has nothing to do with gun shows. It has nothing to do with loopholes. It's a protection to keep the government from sticking its nose in every private transaction between private citizens of this country. It's meant to keep the government from having total control of who has what and when they have it. And just like how the gun show loophole isn't a loophole, the 3-day time period for a background check is also not a loophole. It's a protection of citizens' rights. The 3-day time limit is there to make the government do their job in a timely manner and in a way that doesn't interfere with your ability to exercise your Second Amendment rights. Without that 3-day time frame in which they can do their job, they'd be able to delay you indefinitely. They would be able to impose a de facto ban on people simply by being incompetent. And we all know how great the government is at being incompetent. Just look at things like social services, look at the Veterans Administration, heck, look at the no-fly list everyone's talking about right now. A lot of people, the vast majority of people on the no-fly list are only there because they have a name that sounds similar to a known terrorist. And since the government is so great at their job, all you got to do to get off that list is appeal. Of course, they forget to tell you that just the waiting list to get on the list to make an appeal is 3.5 years. It's going to take 3.5 years before anyone even listens to you about the fact that you shouldn't be on the list. And that's what this 3-day time limit prevents them from doing with background checks. It prevents them from being grossly incompetent and therefore grinding things to a halt. And let's keep in mind that with today's technology, a background check should only take a few moments. Almost instantly, they can just enter your name and your pertinent information into a computer, and they will get results from all 50 states regarding whether you should be able to own a gun or not. And once they put that information in, if something comes back that looks like it might be a disqualifying factor, they have 3 days to look into it further. Now, does the system fail? Well, yeah, it fails. It fails because they're incompetent quite often. In fact, they delay me all the time. I have nothing in my background. I buy all the time. I always get approved, but they still delay me all the time. I got delayed yesterday. Once they delayed my sister indefinitely. They would not allow her to buy a gun because they said there was something in her background check that they couldn't get into a file that was closed. Now, the closed file was a traffic violation that was actually done by her husband. And a traffic violation is not a disqualifying factor. But the very fact that they said that it was there and they couldn't look at it meant they weren't going to allow her to have a gun, even though that is not the law. So even with the 3-day limit in place, they will still harass people and use this system to violate people's rights. And they bully FFL dealers into saying, if you give it to them when you can legally can, if they do something wrong with it, you're going to be responsible. So in a way, they actually prevent people from buying guns that should be able to buy guns because they abuse the system. And sometimes it goes the other way, like the church shooter in South Carolina. They tried to say he used the 3-day wait loophole to get his gun. Well, that's an out-and-out lie. He did not use the 3-day loophole. He did not buy a gun, get put on hold for 3 days, and then at the end of the 3 days, the FFL did not transfer the gun to him without a background check. He underwent a background check and passed. It came back as cleared. He then took possession of the gun after he was cleared by the system that was supposed to stop him. That is not using a loophole. That is an incompetent system. But it doesn't help me to say that our system is incompetent because then no one's going to give the system more power. If it can't operate with the power it has, what good would it be to give them more power? In fact, that would be dangerous. So instead, they have to say, oh, he used a loophole, which, like I said, is a lie. And if they can't do their job competently when they're forced to do it in a timely manner, what makes you think they would do it competently if they weren't forced to do it in a timely manner? If the president could say, well, I'm going to fire all but one person that does background checks and save the government a lot of money and slow gun sales down to nothing. There'd be nothing to stop him from doing that. As long as there was one guy there processing background checks, it wouldn't matter how long it took if there was no 3-day time window. The president would basically be able to do what he hasn't been able to do through legislation or with the backing of the people with just the stroke of a pen. He would be able to impose a de facto gun ban simply by understaffing the ATF. And all of you out there that are going to say, well, that wouldn't stop people from buying guns. It would just slow them down a little bit. What's it going to hurt them to be slowed down a little bit? Well, it would hurt a lot. It would especially hurt the dealers a lot. And I'm not just talking if we mean long waits, like 2.5, 3 years, like to get off the no-fly list. I'm talking waits of 2 weeks, maybe 3 weeks, maybe a month. Most gun dealers are small mom and pop businesses that operate from week to week. They buy guns on credit, they sell them, they pay off their credit. If you made it to where they couldn't sell a gun for 1 week, 2 weeks, 3 weeks due to delayed background checks, you would put them out of business. And the big box stores that work on large inventories, they would not be able to set on that much inventory for that long. There isn't a big enough profit margin in guns for them to do that. They would have to liquidate their inventories and stop buying guns. If we were to believe these politicians about the 3-day loophole and actually fall for their garbage and take away the time limit on them doing their jobs, they'd be able to do something they've wanted to do for a long time. They'd be able to take away the Second Amendment almost entirely, not through legislation, but through simple incompetence, something that they're great at. So don't be fooled by these politicians. Pay attention to what they're saying, pay attention to the ones that are lying, and then come election season this year, hold them accountable for those lies. You ain't even my real dad.